Welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, hi, welcome, my name is Robin, and today we are going to start off with this is a little bit of a serious video all in all. Very recently, as in a couple of days ago, there was a very serious decision made by our Supreme Court which decided to legally define what a woman was. It is not an outcome that anybody wanted, apart from horrible people who hate themselves and don't know how to love themselves without taking it out on other people. Before I get into this video, I want to tell you that if you are in the UK, you should be emailing your MP now, ASAP. It takes 2 minutes. I will link below a template so you can copy and paste it into an email. It is better to customize it and personalize it to your own personal experience, just so it comes across that way when you email it to your MP. But again, it will only take you a couple of minutes to do. So if you are in the UK, please email your MP immediately if you can and if you are able. There are protests going on up and down the UK currently, and find out where your nearest protest is, go with a friend, wear face masks, and again, if you are in a position to be able to do so and you are not in the UK, donate to trans people, hire trans people, and hug your trans friends and let them know that they are loved, because it is a very hard and difficult time at the moment for trans people everywhere, so just make sure you're doing your part. I thought about two things when making this list. I thought about non-fiction books for resources and understanding trans people better and getting to learn about people's experiences, and I also thought about magic books because the hag that made the Harry Potter books spent £70,000 on helping this ruling go through and donated it to the cause of hating trans people. And I thought, because of this, let's make a list of magic books that you can read instead of the not even very good book. So now that that's out of the way, I hope that everyone is doing as best as they possibly can. Let's dive into the video. So let's go into my magic recommendations. If you're looking for a YA fantasy book, then Cemetery Boys is definitely one that should be on the list. This was one that has been talked about quite a lot, I believe, but if you haven't read it, you absolutely should. I devoured Cemetery Boys last year. I absolutely adored it. So Cemetery Boys follows Yadriel, and he is trying to prove himself as a man to his family. There is a title that's passed down called a Brujo to the male family members in his family, and to prove himself as a trans man and to show that he has earned this title, he needs to be able to send a ghost into the afterlife. So he tries to summon a ghost, and when this ghost turns up, he sees that it's Julian, who is the bad boy at school. Julian will not go down without a fight. He does not want to go to the afterlife until they find out who killed him. And of course, with them both spending time with each other, it's going to be harder and harder for them to say goodbye. I absolutely adore this book. I love the chemistry between the two. The characters are incredible, and everything about this book was just absolutely beautiful. So definitely recommend Cemetery Boys if you have not read it yet. Next we have another YA fantasy, which is Transmorgify, which I believe is 14 different stories, which follows different genders and different forms of expression in different fantasy scenarios, because as the book says, magic is for everybody. And this is genuinely one of the most beautiful covers I've ever seen on the book. I used to own this, but I did sell it unfortunately, but it is absolutely stunning. Definitely recommend if you want some like little stories to get you through. Sometimes like having like a short story collection is just a nice palate cleanser from having like a super long meaty book, so definitely recommend. If you need to feel some anger, Andrew Joseph White does say these 3 books are YA books, but I do think that they are sort of like late teen YA books, like almost adult horror books, because they are quite gory and quite violent. But if you would like some angry trans representation, then every single one of Andrew Joseph White's books are incredible suggestions. Hell Follow With Us was one of my favourite books I read last year. This one follows Benji, who is in a part of this cult, and this cult believes that everybody should follow this religion, if you'd like to say that, and they decide that they are going to kill everybody that doesn't follow along with how they view the world. Super relevant, I think. This book follows Benji, who is a trans teen who is selected to become this angel of death almost. He has inside of him a super weapon that is meant to be unleashed at Armageddon. Benji escapes and is rescued by a bunch of teens from the local LGBTQ plus shelter, and together they all sort of make a plan to get back at these people and make things right. It's very angry, it's very, I would say, very gory. It has found family, it's just incredible, it's absolutely beautiful, and I will always use this as an excuse to show off my special editions because I'm absolutely obsessed with Andrew Joseph White, and I just think he's like one of the best like authors to be out there at the moment, so I definitely recommend. This is the only one I haven't read of his, and this is Spirit Bears His Tea. This follows 16-year-old Silas, who can commune with the dead, and because he can commune with the dead, he gets sort of sold off or put into a forced marriage, which he ends up running away from, and because he runs away from this, they sort of diagnose him with this madness that people who can commune with the dead have, and he gets sent to an all-girls sanatorium, I believe it's called, and finishing school where the ghosts of the children who are missing begin to ask for his help. Very interesting concepts. Again, I'm very excited to read this. And Compound Fracture, which is, I read this actually, I think this is the last book that I read, and this is beyond incredible and probably going to be my #1 spot for my favourite book I read this year. This book follows Miles Abernathy, again a trans teen, and we follow him in the beginning as he sends an email to his parents coming out as trans, and he sneaks off to a party, and he is sneaking off to this party because he has evidence that an accident that happened in the town that injured his dad, killed his best friend's mum, and killed others was actually all done by the sheriff on purpose, and he has evidence of this, and he goes to sneak this evidence to his best friend to show him, and is caught by the sheriff's son. The sheriff's son then beats Miles almost to death, and when Miles wakes up, he sees the ghost of his great-granddad. A lot of things that happen after this which are crazy, and again, this is another YA book, but like, it was insanely gory, I believe, insanely gory, and a lot, and again, it has a lot of rage, it's fantastic, and it's absolutely beautiful. So if that's the route that you want to go down, I absolutely believe Andrew Joseph White is your guy, because all of his books, incredible, beautiful, stunning. The 2 out of the 3 I've read have ended up being in my top 5 books, so that's how incredible they are. Another fantasy recommendation is Mooncakes. I have talked about Mooncakes before in I think 2 other videos. Mooncakes is a gorgeous little graphic novel. It's very, very pretty, everything in there is beautiful, and it follows Nova, who is at home working with her grandmas at a witchy bookshop. She ends up hearing something during the night, goes to check it out, and finds out that her long lost best childhood friend Tam has come back, but there is something wrong with Tam and there is something going on, and so the two decide to investigate together about what is happening. This is a lovely, cozy, beautiful book, and I absolutely adore graphic novels. I think there's just something so beautiful about them, and I've always had this opinion, but if you don't think that graphic novels are reading, then you're wrong. Get out. This is truly a beautiful like art style as well. It's just everything about it is gorgeous. If you're looking for something soft and kind, then Mooncakes is definitely the one that you should be reading. This is another book I haven't read, but I have read the prequel to it. I'm just reading the bio of this book, but I am very interested in reading it because I adored the prequel, and it's definitely up there, but this is one that has again been out for a while. Pet. The children of the city of Lucille have been told that monsters no longer exist there, but Jam and her best friend Redemption, and I just have to say Jam is like my favourite name for a person ever. Jam and Redemption have grown up with this lesson that monsters don't exist anymore, but when Jam meets Pet, which is a creature made of horns and claws, Jam is going to have to reconsider all that she's been taught, and she will end up having to protect her best friend while finding out why people keep saying that monsters don't exist. I read the prequel to this, which is Bitter, and I really enjoyed it. I'm usually a person to read things as they're published and not as like as it's intended. It's sort of sort of like watching the Star Wars movies out of order, so I don't know why I did that. I very much recommend Bitter, and I also need to read Pet so bad. And for my final suggestion for fantasy, Her Majesty's Royal Coven. I've talked about this series until I feel like the cows come home on this channel, but I absolutely adored Her Majesty's Royal Coven, and it's about 5 sort of best friends battling the end of the world. Yeah, this is, I believe, a 5-part series, maybe. I don't know, the prequel came out last year, and the 3rd series in this book comes out later on this year, so I'm very excited about that. Don't let how big they are fool you. They are so much fun and really, really entertaining. And of course, Juno Dawson is writing a Doctor Who episode this year, so incredible. So that was my magic collection. I definitely think there are so many more I could talk about, like but I feel like I might be forever, because there seem to be a lot of like magic-y trans books, which is incredible because fantasy is one of my favourite genres. But yeah, if you have any suggestions, please leave them in the comments below, for me and for everybody else, because I'm always adding to my TBR, even though I shouldn't be. I still definitely am. So here is my non-fiction recommendations. First of all, it's Pageboy. I read this when it first came out. I really enjoyed it. I think I got a little bit confused with the storytelling. It's not linear storytelling, so that can get a little bit confusing, but I think it's regardless a very, very interesting look into Elliot Page's life. And yeah, I definitely recommend this one. It's really interesting and I really enjoyed it. The next one is A Trans Man Walks into a Gay Bar. Again, one of my favourite reads whenever I read it, whichever year I read it. I absolutely adored this book, and it's about the author Henry Nicholas. It starts with him breaking up with his girlfriend of 5 years, and then we follow him what it's like to be a trans man and a gay man, and how the community accepts you, how you move through life. It's very interesting, and I have praised this book so often with how incredible it's written and how light and how almost conversationally it's written. It's really fresh, and it's very raw. I absolutely adore this book, and I think I've talked about it in 3 or 4 other videos about the writing style of it and how beautiful it's done. Transitional is my next recommendation. I have not read Transitional, but I definitely will be doing. It's definitely very, very far up on the list. And this follows Monroe Bergdorf, and she is an activist model. I follow her on Instagram because she's stunning and fantastic. It's about her, and it's sort of like a memoir slash how transitioning is just sort of something that happens in everyday human life, and how different experiences and different personalities will help us make better communities and help us come together more. So very interested in reading this and definitely recommend. The next book I recommend is Fat and Queer, an anthology about queer and trans bodies and lives, and this is just a gorgeous celebration of fatness and queerness intertwined and how it affects different people in different genders and different expressions, and it's very, very interesting. Anthologies are super easy, I believe, to get through because there's so it's like a short story collection, you know, like it's very, very interesting. And yeah, I really, really adore this book, and I think I've had this for like 4 years at this point. I think I got this like when I started reading, so absolutely beautiful. Definitely recommend this one. The next one I recommend is anything by Shon Faye, which I believe is the only 2 books she's written, which is Love in Exile, her most recent one, and the Transgender issue, which is getting a 5-year release, 5-year like update release I believe she's doing for this, so maybe wait to read that because it does have sort of like, I think it was released in 2019, and in this she sort of has a hopefulness for the Labour government if they were to get into power, and as we've seen with the Labour government in power, with them currently in power, it's not aged particularly well, but that's not on her. That's just how terrible the world is. So I think she's doing an updated version for the 5-year anniversary of the book. Love in Exile, it's her personal experiences with love. Love is so much different than the sort of capitalist consumer way that we have love, and how love can be found in communities and friendships just as much as, you know, one singular person. Very interesting. I really enjoyed it. I read that bit at the beginning of this year. absolutely loved it. And the transgender issue I again adored. The transgender issue follows mainly about the UK politics and how they have used trans people for this like culture war, and how they're not focusing on any actual problems, and what it's like for the NHS waiting times, what it's like for the media and how they treat trans people, and how this has always been sort of an underlying issue. And it's very, very interesting and definitely a must read. But again, I think the 5-year anniversary like re-release might come out soon, so maybe hold off on that one until she re-releases it. The next one is one of the first books I read for my book club, and that is We Can Do Better Than This. This is 35 different artists, musicians, activists, own personal looks into how we can make the world a better place. Very, very interesting, and yeah, a range of different people that have written for it. The next one I recommend is a graphic novel, and that is Genderqueer. Genderqueer is one of the most banned books in America. It's about the author and relationship to gender and growing up and feeling like something isn't with the norm of what everybody else is telling you how to be and how to grow up. It's very interesting, and again, a graphic novel, so very easy to consume. I did it as an audiobook, which is crazy to say for a graphic novel, but they make it into like a I don't know, it's got music and stuff like that, so it's sort of like a whole radio show sort of thing. Very, very interesting, and again, incredible, beyond incredible. I definitely recommend obviously all of these because I love all of these books. If somewhere is banning a book, you should absolutely read it, because there's something in there that they don't want you to know and it's literally just about a person's gender identity. So another one that I read last year was All Boys Aren't Blue. This is again about the author's relationship to sexuality, gender, and also their blackness and the intersectionality between that. And this is another memoir about growing up and what all this meant. Very, very interesting, very heavy, definitely another recommend. And finally, one of my, I can't believe I have this in my hands. I can't believe I have this in my hands. This is a birthday present, and I think like one of the best birthday presents I've ever been given. Stone Butch Blues. I used to have Stone Butch Blues, like a physical copy of Stone Butch Blues. That's crazy. I'm not even halfway through it, but you know, I started the other day, so we're getting there. Stone Butch Blues follows Leslie Feinberg's life as a butch in the 20th, like back half of the 20th century. Very interesting, very illuminating, a very, very heavy book, but it's a lot about how people were treated back then, and it's, I think, a definite must read for things that we're starting to see now, but with trans people. I would absolutely, you can read the PDF of this for free, I believe. I wanted to end this video on some personal shout outs to some of my personal favourites for trans books. So obviously anything Alison Rumfitt. This is my Brainworms t-shirt, which you've not been able to see the entire time, but I have been wearing it. Alison Rumfitt, incredible horror writer. Brainworms is about how transphobia is a literal brainworms and will rot to your brain. Incredible, and really, really incredible book. Tell Me I'm Worthless is also by her. Really incredible, if not one of the best horror books I have ever read. Bellies is one of my favourite sort of like literature fiction books by Nicola Dinan, who I got to meet a couple of weeks ago when she released her book Disappoint Me, which I have not read yet. But I absolutely adored Bellies, and it's about two people's relationship and like how they've grown together and how they came away from each other and growing through life. Very interesting, and very much really, really enjoyed her writing style. I feel like I can't go anywhere without talking about Nevada, which is, I feel like, one of the trans staple books. Just about a messy trans woman living in, I believe, New York. There's no polish to this book. I think it's very messy, it's very, very fun, and it's very interesting. And again, this feels like a staple. It's only a short book, so I definitely recommend Nevada to anybody who's wanting to read trans books, because incredible, like the creme de la creme, I feel. If you like poems, 100 Queer Poems, which is an anthology of poems. I am not very good with poems. I'm a little bit stupid, so I don't understand poems, but I very much enjoyed some of the poems in here, and definitely recommend if you like poems. The Certain Points We Touch is an absolutely gorgeous, sad, sort of like a Lana Del Rey of books. The main character's ex has died, and so she continues to write letters to this person. Incredible incredible. One of my favourite books of like 3 years ago when I read it for my book club. And Pageboy, which I read last year, which has incredible. Beautiful, incredible again. And this is a book about transness, addiction, pulling yourself back together after destructing yourself. Very, very interesting, very small, and I adored every element of this. I have given you some incredible fantasy recommendations alongside some non-fiction gorgeous recommendations, alongside just some shout outs, some personal favourites from me. Protest, donate and hug your friends and stay kind. Thank you for watching. Bye.